Three homages. Buddham saranam gacchami. Dhammam saranam gacchami. Sangham saranam gacchami. Namo Tassa, Namo Tassa, Namo Tassa.
Good morning and welcome to all your smiling faces this morning. So wonderful to see you. Good morning. Welcome to Reno Buddhist Center, and we are so happy to see you on this glorious spring day. We enjoy coming together to share the Dharma. It's very important to kind of immerse yourself in this spiritual realm and get a glimpse of what living in a spiritual realm looks like and feels like. So we will begin our service this morning, as we always do, with offering incense and gratitude to the infinite wisdom and compassion that surrounds us every day. And we chant our Shoshinge, which is a pleasantly long poem that goes through our lineage teachers. On that wall, they're depicted, starting from India, going through China and Japan. And this was written by our lineage founder over 850 years ago, called the Shoshinge. So this is chanted, if you're new, in vertical columns, the traditional Japanese way. So starting from the right, vertically, going to the left. If that seems a bit daunting, you're welcome to sit and just listen, close your eyes, and let the good vibes flow through you. There's a translation at the bottom if you'd like to get a gist of what it means. So Shinran wanted us to know that we are more than just going from cradle to grave. We are part of a long, unbroken thread of life that reaches deep, deep into the past, and we are responsible for extending that thread into the future. Everyone is encouraged to come up and offer incense and gratitude to Amida Buddha, or to a dear teacher, and it is an ingratitude. So it's a gift that we're giving, a small gift. And also in our Hondo is the Medicine Buddha altar for more healing, either for yourself or to direct it to a loved one. And then the Kannon altar is the altar of compassion, to direct that to a loved one or someone who has passed on, and you want to remember them. So thank you very much, and we will begin with chanting. Namo Tassa. Shoshinge. Himyo muryo junyorai Namu しぎこ法蔵菩薩にじ財政自在お部署東県省部浄土院国土人伝自然幕根流無常首相願長法慶右大偶勢五公子唯死少寿流世妙正文字法無法無量無変更無下無体公園の少女歓喜知恵公不断難死無償公超日が交渉人生一切群上無交渉本願名号少女号知心信行願人上等学書大涅槃必死滅道願成就如来所意公修世唯世弥陀本願会五辱枠自群上会法身如来両実言の法一年喜愛心不断本の特涅槃文章逆法祭永流入手死入海一味聖主信仰上昇後意の水波無明暗頓内心臓死有無上不信じ信心天非如に幸福運無運無しげ妙無暗薬心謙虚大狂気即応超税後悪臭一切全幕本部人門心如来偶勢願仏言古代諸芸者税人名分大理家弥陀部本願念部邪見教魔楽主張信行十字人に難中死な昔インド最天自論芸中華自治一期しこそ現代諸公正所意妙如来本税大き釈迦如来両河線一種五妙難天軸宇宙大事出土性出の財波有無権先世大乗無常法召喚議事小安楽賢治難行六六信行異教指導楽億年弥陀部本願人連即時入筆上唯の上昇如来語応報大悲偶勢音天神菩薩増論世奇妙無下根如来永寿たら謙信寺古戦王朝大誓願こういう本願力栄光移動群上昇維新記入功徳大崩壊筆脈入大永寿宗特使蓮華造世界即昇信用昇進有本の人間人図入賞自音自王芸本自動乱両天使上皇乱小菩薩来三蔵ルシ十上教本書専業気楽法天神菩薩論中芸報道因果見世願方言栄光ゆたりき少女死因唯心人惑前本部新人法承知承知即涅槃必死無量光明道小宇宙上回復系 土砂継承道南省有名浄土活入安全自力変言宗円満特語感染症三風三神慶音言増魔法明道非因異生増惑地偶税思案妖怪称名化全道六名武将位公愛上三両逆枠公明明語権因年介入本願大地会利用者小樹今後心狂気一年総合用意大東逆三人即所法所市上楽原神公開一大教偏気安養加二祭先祖出身反戦人法家二度小弁流極十悪人唯勝部外薬剤非正集中煩悩証言水不見大非無見上昇が本次元空妙仏教連民全幕本部人新宗教書後編集戦弱本願具悪性現代生じ臨伝芸慶地義上位少子即入弱上無意楽一心自に納入仏教大自主使徒上西無変極直枠同族自主具道心有意過心しご創世ナムアミダアンブナムアミダアブナムアミダアブナムアミダブナムアミダアブナムミダジョブのこの方は今に自己をへたまえりほしのこうりいえぬきわもなくせのもみょうを照らすなりナムアミダムナムアミダムナムアミダブナム は阿弥陀仏ナムは阿弥陀仏ナムは阿弥陀仏ナムゲラの降臨気はもなし高速かむるものはみいなうむを離ると述べたもおう平等確に奇妙せよ栄光願にし功徳平等聖祭道菩提心往生はナマンダブナマンダブナマンダブナマンダブナマンダブナマンダブナマンダブナマンダブナマンダブナマンダブ
Now we would like to invite any children who would enjoy Dharma School to go down to Haruma Hall with Reverend Shelley and Aaron. We can sing them out. Let the Buddha walk with you. Let the Buddha
Good morning. The Sama Nanapala Sutra on fruits of the spiritual life. Thus, I have heard, at one time Buddha was staying in Rajagaha at Jivaka's mango grove with 1,200 students. It was full moon night of the moon of the lotus. King Ajatashatru of Magadha, the son of Queen Vaidehi and heir to Bimbisara, was sitting on the roof terrace of his palace, surrounded by his ministers. He exclaimed, "How wonderful is this moonlit night! How beautiful, how lovely, how auspicious this moonlit night! What spiritual guru should we visit tonight? Who would make my mind clear and serene?" The ministers suggested several local and renowned gurus, but the king remained silent. All this time, Jivaka was sitting silently, not far from the king. So the king turned to him. "Friend Jivaka, why are you silent?" "Your Majesty, there is Buddha, a worthy and rightly self-awakened one. Perhaps if you visited him, he would make your mind clear and serene." "Yes, Jivaka, have the riding elephants prepared." "As you say, Your Majesty." And the elephants were prepared. Then the king set out from the capital with attendants carrying torches, headed for Jivaka's mango grove. But when the king was near to the grove, he was gripped with fear and trepidation. Anxious and agitated, he asked Jivaka, "Jivaka, you aren't deceiving me, are you? You aren't betraying me an ambush? You aren't turning me over to my enemies? How can there be such a large sangha of students, 1,200 in all, with no sound of sneezing, coughing, or voices at all in the mango forest?" "Don't be afraid, great king. I am not deceiving you. Go forward there. Those lamps are lighting the Dharma hall." Then the king dismounted his tusker and approached the hall on foot. Entering the hall, he asked, "Jivaka, where is Buddha?" "That is Buddha, O king, sitting in the center, surrounded by students." The king approached Buddha and stood to one side. As he was standing there surveying the students sitting in peaceful silence, utterly clear and serene like a lake, he felt inspired to say, "May my son, Prince Udayabhara, enjoy the same stillness that your community enjoys." Buddha said, "Have you come, O king, together with your afflictions?" He bowed to Buddha and the Sangha hands palm to palm, and sat to one side. After some time, he said to Buddha, "Teacher, common craftsmen like weavers, basket makers, and any other craftsmen live off the fruits of their craft, visible in the here and now, giving happiness to themselves and their dear ones. They make offerings to spiritual and seekers in hope of a heavenly rebirth. Similarly, teacher, is it possible to point out actual fruits of spiritual life, visible in the here and now?" Have you asked this question of other spiritual teachers? Yes, I have. If it isn't troublesome, how did they answer? No trouble. Once I asked Kassapa Guru. He answered that non-action was our only course. I felt as if it were a person when asked about a mango, answered with a breadfruit. Without expressing my dissatisfaction, I got up from my seat and left. Another time I approached Gosala Guru and asked him. He said to me, "Great king, there is no cause, no condition for the experiences of beings. There is nothing self or other caused. All living beings are powerless. All we can do is wander on." I was dissatisfied with his answer too, so I got up and left. When I asked Ajita Kesaguru, he said, "A person is composite of the four elements. At death, they return to their source. With the breakup of the body, the wise and the foolish alike are annihilated, destroyed, and do not exist." He answered with ultimate annihilation. As before, I got up and left. Another time I asked Kachayana Guru. His answer was, "Permanence." So I got up and left. Another time I asked Velataputa Guru, and he responded, "If you ask me if there exists another world after death, if I thought that there exists another world, would I declare that to you? I don't think so. I don't think in that or otherwise. I don't think not. I don't think not. If you ask me if there isn't another world, or both is and isn't, or neither is nor isn't, nor if there is transmigration, if there isn't, I don't think so. I don't think that way and don't think otherwise." I thought, among all these teachers, this was the most foolish and confused of all. So, dissatisfied, I got up and left. So now I ask Buddha the same question. What fruit of the spiritual life is visible in the here and now? I will answer, but first I ask you a counter question. Suppose your servant thinks to himself, "Isn't it amazing, the results of good actions? King Ajatashatru is a human being as I am, yet the king enjoys himself like a deva god, while I am his servant, always watching for that look on his face. I too should do meritorious deeds. I will shave off my hair, put on the saffron robe, and go forth into the spiritual life." So after some time, he lives, restrained in body, speech, and mind, with simple food and shelter, delighting in solitude. If one of your officers informed you, "You should know, Majesty, that servant of yours has gone forth," would you say, "Bring that man back to me, make him my servant again"? Not at all, teacher. Rather, I would bow to him, rise in respect, invite him to sit, offer him gifts of robes, food, lodgings, and medicine, and I would provide him with safety and protection. So what do you think, great king? If that is the case, is that a visible fruit of spiritual life, the bowing of kings, or is it not? Yes, teacher, that certainly is visible fruit. This great king is the first fruit of spiritual life, seen in the here and now. Is it possible, teacher, to point out another fruit of spiritual life? Yes, it is, O king. Listen and pay close attention. I will speak. When a Tathagata appears in the world, he teaches the Dharma. He proclaims the holy life in detail and in essence, entirely perfect, surpassingly pure. A regular person hearing the Dharma gains confidence in the Buddha and seeks out spiritual life. He lives restrained by the rules of the way, avoiding the slightest error. Consummate in his virtue, He guards the doors of his senses, is possessed of mindfulness and alertness, and is content. He takes the 5 precepts, and he would experience the 4 jhanas of meditative bliss, most and sublime. Knowledge and vision of the body and mind, supranormal powers over space and time, divine ear element, he hears sounds near or far, awareness of the minds of other beings, recollections of past lives, awareness of the passing away and reappearance of beings according to karma. These are all, great King, fruit of the spiritual life, visible here and now. In this mind state, the 3 outflows, or asavas, sensuality, becoming, and ignorance, that flow out of the mind and defile it are stopped. He discerns as this happens that this is joylessness. This is the origination of joylessness. This is the cessation of joylessness. This is the way leading to joyful life. His heart, knowing in this way and seeing clearly, is released from the outflows of sensuality, of becoming, of ignorance. With release, there is the knowledge. Released, the discernment. Birth is ended. The spiritual life fulfilled, the task done. There is nothing further for this world. Enlightenment. This too, great King, is a fruit of spiritual life, visible here and now, more excellent than all the previous ones, most sublime. When this was said, King Ajatashatru said to Buddha, "Magnificent, teacher, magnificent! You have answered my question, just as if you were to place upright what was overturned, or to carry a lamp into the dark so that those with eyes could see. In the same way has the Buddha, through many lines of reasoning, made the Dharma clear." The king bowed down and said, "I go to the Buddha for refuge, to the Dharma, and to the Sangha. May Buddha remember me as a student who has taken refuge from this day forward for all my life. May I confess a transgression has overcome me, teacher, in that I was so foolish, so muddle-headed, and so unskilled as to kill my father, a righteous man, a righteous king, your friend, for the sake of being a ruler. May Buddha please accept this confession of my transgression as such, so that I may restrain myself in the future." Yes, great King, a transgression overcame you in that you were so foolish and so unskilled as to kill your father, a righteous man, a righteous king, and my friend, for the sake of being a ruler. But because you see your transgression as an error and make amends in accord with the Dharma, we accept your confession. It is growth in the discipline of the noble ones when, seeing a transgression as such, one makes amends in accord with the Dharma to exercise restraint in the future. When this was said, King Ajatashatru said to Buddha, "Well then, teacher, I am now taking leave. Many are my duties, many my responsibilities. Then, great King, do what you think it is now time to do. So King Ajatashatru, delighting and rejoicing in the Buddha's teaching, rose from his seat, bowed down, and left. After circumambulating him, took his leave. Not long after King Ajatashatru had left, the Buddha addressed the students. Alas, the king is wounded, students. The king is spiritually inhibited. Had he not killed his father, that righteous man, that righteous king, the dustless, stainless Dharma eye would have risen to him as he sat in this very seat. That is what Buddha said. Gratified, the students delighted in Buddha's words. We will now have a few minutes of meditation accompanied by soft music.
my friends at a distance cannot hear me if I don't turn this on because the streaming thing. So I have turned it on. I am so happy to see you all here today. I want to offer up a big thank you to all the RBC members that contribute and help keep this place going in many different ways. It takes a lot to do that. It's a complicated old building and such. So some give time and some give money. It all helps turning the wheel of Dharma. We're just doing our little tiny part, turning the giant wheel of Dharma that has been rolling for certainly the last 2,600 years, but I think it was rolling before that in different ways and shapes and forms and places. But this giving is essential to spiritual life. It's an essential part. We find an easy way to give, and then we kind of make that a habit and settle into it and provide continued support for the temple and the Dharma community. So, thank you all very much. Today's talk is about the fruits of the spiritual life. The phrase from the Samanapala Sutra that we just heard. The sutra tells this story of Ajatasattu, then the king of Magadha. In it, the king repeatedly asks the question, what is the fruit of the spiritual life visible in the here and now? The sutra brings up that basic question for all of us. What is a spiritual life? What would it look like? And I think we can all imagine different modes. Some people might think of mystical seers in a far-off land. Some people might think of a saint-like person like Mother Teresa in India. Some people might think of a kind and simple soul living a humble life. For Buddhists, following the Eightfold Path is the spiritual life. A quiet and simple process, patient and habitual. Through the many practices of mindfulness, Nenbutsu, mindfulness of the Buddha in all things, we gain insight or acceptance of the unseen and the uncreated. King Ajatasattu wanted to know, what are the fruits of this aspect of our life? The real results that we can experience in our life. The Samanapala Sutra focuses on Ajatasattu, his suffering and his struggle. He was a wreck. He had violently usurped the throne from the Buddha's great friend and benefactor, King Bimbisara. He did not kill the king with a sword, he starved him to death, which is a horrible, horrible death. So, having killed Bimbisara to become king, Ajatasattu lived a very unsettled life. He was, understandably, plagued by paranoia of assassination in his waking hours, and tormented with terrible night terrors when he tried to sleep. He had boils, hives, and sweats through the day, and all manner of other physical maladies. Probably some of these were generated by his troubles, his psychology or whatever it was. I don't know how you say that. As we heard, he sought relief from many pundits and gurus, all these spiritual teachers in the area. Really a parade of teachers that came to the palace offering advice. Of each one, Ajatasattu would ask, is it possible to point out a fruit of the spiritual life visible in the here and now? He wanted to know if following a path could relieve his suffering. We all heard the many responses, though Valatiputta, the agnostic, gave that most puzzling response. I don't think so. I don't think in that way or otherwise. I don't think not or not. recommending, I guess, that we suspend all judgment. That was his answer. Their answers were all unhelpful and ranged from impossible to useless. The king responded to each one with, I got up from my seat and left. Don't let me forget to give her the $5 too. Then his minister, Jivaka, recommended visiting the Buddha. And because of their unfortunate history, Ajatasattu had not thought of the Buddha for help. Years before, King had sent assassins to hunt the Buddha, which is a wonderful sutra. The Buddha's sitting in meditation, and he kind of notices this guy with a machete hiding in the jungle, and he keeps looking at him, and he's like, hello, hello. And the guys with the machetes hiding, and they have a discussion, and we'll just make that a whole nother Dharma talk sometime. But ultimately, the Buddha helps the man, the assassin, and his family leave the country so that the king won't, because that's the assassin's problem is always the assassin's problem is, she's back. Sorry. Very unkind of me, but anyway, so Ajatasattu had a history with the Buddha, and then another time he said that the Buddha was committing treason and dissolving the kingdom, and nobody should donate anything to the temple, and this was hard for the temple and the Buddha, because in those days, we received donations in the form of money, and they go to the bank account, and then we could buy food with it and like that. But in those days, they walked around the village, or the city of Rajagraha, with a bowl, and if people put food in it, they ate that day. And if they didn't put food in it, they did not eat. So when one of these trumped-up issues happened with Ajatasattu disliking the Buddha, the whole Sangha of the dedicated students of priests in Buddhism, they didn't eat for like a week. So it was a big deal. So clearly Ajatasattu thought that the Buddha disliked him, thought he was angry with him, thought ill of him. He thought the Buddha would make fun of him and ridicule him if he came asking for relief of his suffering. But he did not know the Buddha. The king had asked everyone else. No response to his question had given any measure of relief to his suffering. So the Buddha was his last resort. The king went to the mango grove, a simple Dharma hall in Jivaka's grove, and asked that question: is it possible to point out a fruit of the spiritual life that we can see in our life? We know the king was very troubled, and he wanted some proof of benefit before he considered following a teaching. And I think we all want that. It's like before we make a big commitment, we want that surety. Like buying the extra large barbecue sauce at Costco. We taste the sample. You know, you don't buy 2 gallons without knowing it's probably pretty good. So when we venture into a new place of worship, we need to hear some sense of what's going on and where this is leading before we can commit to a path. So the Buddha responded to Ajatasattu and described 8 important fruits of the spiritual life: delight, pleasure, contentment, calm, bliss, insight, special powers, knowledge, and ultimately release from samsara. That is the ocean of births and deaths that we all struggle in. And we can look forward to all the benefits that the Buddha listed in the sutra. Some of them just jump out at me that I want to mention, underline. The first one the Buddha called solitude's delight. Freedom from servitude results in being content with the simple food and shelter, delighting in solitude and contemplation. This allows us to deeply venerate and value others without limitation of our ego. We can have peace that we're looking for. simple, easeful life. Time alone is comfortable and refreshing. Another interesting one is virtue's pleasure. It simply feels good to make skillful actions, to be kind and generous, and of service to others is rewarding in and of itself. The student, consummate in virtue, sees no danger anywhere from his restraint. Endowed with this noble attribute of virtue, he is inwardly sensitive to the great pleasure of being without blame. Then there's simplicity's contentment. Following the simple life of the Eightfold Path, material entanglements are few. Wherever you go, take only what you need along with you. This is how to find contentment. There are many of these, so I will just kind of ease forward. Oh, mental calm, that's a good one. Now, a lot of us are just looking for peace. When people come to the temple, sometimes the first time they visit, they just say, well, I felt a peaceful feeling. Don't know how to place it. And that's what brings us back. The spiritual life opens us to all kinds of mindfulness. And with mindfulness of the Buddha, the Nembutsu, and alertness of deeply hearing the light of Amida Buddha, a student can cleanse their mind. The fundamental hindrances of wanting, ill will, anger, restlessness, all the things that troubled Ajatasattu, those can melt away. Doubt can melt away. An emotional state of mental calm, of equanimity pervades. The normal difficulties of life can be seen as just that, and not amplified and fictionalized into catastrophes of the weak. So, we benefit from those things. One that I listed was special powers. Now, we all want special powers. And if you read the sutras, some of the special powers are amazing. So, we live in a materialist society, a culture. We don't really think much of special powers, except we go to movies that have lots of special power superheroes, but okay, fine. So that means we dream of special powers, but we don't think we have them. The Buddha outlined that the spiritual life gives us insights and experiences of being one becoming many, or being many becoming one, of appearing and vanishing at will. At the highest levels of attainment, a student goes unimpeded through walls, mountains, as if through space. With the hand, we can touch and stroke the sun or the moon, hearing, like the bodhisattvas, all kinds of sounds, both near and far. The last fruit of the spiritual life that the Buddha mentions in the sutra is release from samsara. This happens when enlightenment is reached. In enlightenment, a Buddha's heart knows and sees and is released from sensuality, becoming, and ignorance. Birth is ended, the spiritual life fulfilled, the task done. Gone, gone, gone far beyond. Enlightenment. These are the fruits of the spiritual life that the Buddha described to Ajatasattu that day in a mango grove. They are wonderful benefits. We can all know these benefits as we follow the path of practice. What are the fruits of the spiritual life? If we answer the king's question for ourselves, we need to look for examples. The best example of people who live the spiritual life in the Buddha way, living the Nembutsu, are the Myokonin, or wonderful, kind people in our Shin Buddhist tradition. We see in the lives of these Myokonin the delicious fruit of the Buddha life, the Buddha described to the king. They experience delight, pleasure, contentment, bliss, special powers, and knowledge. Ultimately, they are released from the struggle of samsara with birth in the Pure Land of Amida Buddha. They have the experience of deep hearing, Monpo, a mindfulness of all things, where they feel the essence of life very deeply. They naturally develop insight into the ultimate dimension that we call Amida Buddha. This insight is directed not by their own efforts, but emerges from the depths of the ultimate dimension itself, naturally, from the tariki of other power. They have a naturalness about them, a connection to the flow of existence without self-centered or self-power inputs. True reality is spontaneous and wonder-filled, and they truly experience life just like that. They live in the flow without calculation or device. Most of all, the spiritual life gives them, or naturally arises in them, true entrusting, in great compassion and great wisdom imbued in the universe. Confidence and faith in Amida Buddha. This is Shinjin, pure, genuine, devoted confidence. They know they are saved from the karmic consequences of many unfortunate actions, and rest assured never to be let go from the loving arms of the Buddha, released from samsara this way. The fruit of the spiritual life is trust, confidence, and faith in that compassion. The spiritual person profoundly lives the Nembutsu and practices deep hearing, Monpo, the natural way to awakening in the ultimate dimension. Our true nature, which is eternal, joyful, selfless, and pure. It's hard to say, but we are all Ajatasattu. Regretting our many unskillful actions, we seek a way forward, a way that will lead to liberation and the end of suffering, not only for ourselves but for all beings. The Buddha Dharma offers such a way. Of all the world views the king surveyed, the Buddha Dharma released him from his suffering. It releases me from my suffering, and you from yours. At the deepest level, the Buddha has only one wish for all of us. And let's repeat it after me. May you be happy. May you be free from harm. May you receive boundless compassion. May peace and harmony fill your heart. Namalabs. 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 Thank you for your kind attention. We usually sing the Reno Buddhist Center theme song selected by Reverend Alicia. If you could stand, it's on page 49 of the service book. I am stuck in this position, so will not stand. Away, away, come away. Thank you. This is now the time for announcements. I guess I should announce the elephant in the room. I was this close. You know, we do have a big cardboard elephant. I was going to put it in the room at this point, but then that would be distracting from the obvious thing that we are starting our fundraising drive for our new meditation hall. You can see this poster here. There's even a stack of zabutons there, the meditation cushions, and then as we get more and more donations, we will fill in the meditation cushions until ultimately, when we find 100 people who donate $1,000, we will have reached our goal, and then the stack of zafus will be ready to go, and we can start digging a hole in the ground and building a hall. It will be about twice as big as the Kanon room is now, if you're familiar with the meditation room we have now. So it'll be an intermediate-sized room, and that will help us. So I would request and encourage all of you to find a way to make a donation. We have a GoFundMe campaign that's set and open and running. There have been some donations and pledges as represented in the chart already. We can also receive donations by any other means. So an envelope with a check in it in the box would be good. If you put your name on it, then we can log that, and for bookkeeping purposes, April 15th and all that kind of stuff, we can note that down. So I look forward to the exciting process of a fundraising campaign. There will be a few different chapters and things, so bear with us and find generosity. We all will. It will be fun. And there will be times that we can work on the building together, too, if you enjoy that sort of thing. So that is today's big announcement. If you're new, that's not that interesting announcement, because one comes into a place and then they're immediately asking for money. We seldom do that, so really this is exceptional if this is your first time. We have a newcomer circle, and George Killeran there, raising his hand, will downstairs in the Haroma Hall, will be there, and we can talk about Buddhism and answer questions relevant to why you came, or whatever questions may be interesting to you. There are also tea and treats downstairs for everyone to come and share down there. I saw William wave his hand. I thought he was reminding me that I forgot something, but I don't have an order of service. So I know that the sutra was a little bit long today, but it was such a wonderful thing, and I'm thinking, well, I could edit it, but then it just, then you lose the good part. Okay. Thank you all so much for coming.